Well, ladies and gentlemen, now with the instant hype of just having new gameplay out of the way, we actually have to talk about some pretty major issues and flaws in Cyberpunk 2077 that we actually saw from the new official gameplay footage for the consoles. Like, Holly would not approve of this, definitely not. Well, which it is confirmed we'll be getting new console footage, by the way, PS5 next time really soon. So we'll see if these flaws hold up. But first, we can't stop crying about one very important thing. The 9 out of 10 people watching right now, yeah, you right now that are watching unsubscribed. The amount of treason, I can barely handle it, honestly. So subscribe and we can hit 20k and join the Flick Army, of course. Alright, so we're obviously going to go over the big density issue, the combat, and the funny noodles pants issue that the community has had a field day with, and a lot more. But let's just open up with the big main one that most people can actually agree about, which is the NPC density, or in plain English, how many characters there are in the streets around you and what they're doing. The truth is, I didn't pick this up the first time I watched it. I had to rewatch it a couple of times, see what people were actually talking about. Focus on the streets. And the streets are very empty for the time of day it was and the actual location. Because remember, how many characters are in one place relates to a lot of different factors, including the district, where in that district, and what time of day it is. This has all been confirmed by based off what they've shown and talked about, by the way. Now, where this opening footage takes place is in Watson, specifically Lizzie's bar, which isn't too far from where V's apartment was. Remember all those NPCs we saw just crowding around, pretty much just packed together in the 48-minute demo 2 years back, and the screenshots we saw afterwards of the same place? The area is pretty much across the street from where we're seeing Lizzie's bar. So here we should have a decent bit of characters walking around. Heck, I'd even say there should be a ton of people walking near that mega building, but that just wasn't the case. Oh, speaking of which, because I'm talking about NPC's density real quick, they do have a lot of repeating characters, though. Even on the streets, I saw two of the same character model, like pretty much right next to each other. And then they used the same guy in the goons that you fought and the guy that was dancing in the Styles trailer. I just made my editing so much more annoying. Now, at the same time, Lizzie's club is pretty much a nightclub, so people will start flocking there at night, obviously. But after you exit Lizzie's bar, it's evening, almost night, and there's probably even less NPCs than there were in the morning. But even then, with the amount of surrounding buildings, there should have been more like 2 to 3 characters walking at a time. I mean, I believe it was like 7 or 8 p.m. when the footage kicks off. I can't 100% remember. I know most of it happened at 9 p.m. though. So there should have been still a decent bit of characters. Even more, like I said, because it's nighttime, right? This should also be a heavy wound to people that have obsessed about how Cyberpunk 2077 was going to completely revolutionize anything they've ever seen before, anything that GTA had done, completely separate tier, new category, super realistic life simulator 2020. Because if you block traffic with your car, it's just like GTA. The traffic will pile up behind you, and no one's gonna be like, oh, I guess come out and interact with you, like, hey man, what did you do? Move your car, which is a little bit of a reality check that some people really desperately needed more than anything else. To expect a game, not a real life simulator. You do sometimes see people running away on the streets. I believe I counted 2 or 3 in this gameplay, and we've seen it before in the press gameplay. So running from something, really. While walking in the Westbrook section later on, you do see a lot more NPC density and not a lot more characters. But that's a bit where my worries really heavily come from, because there's more going on in the streets than there is in that alleyway. You don't have cars driving, you don't have just like a million giant buildings that you have to render, and etc. So if the lack of NPCs is because of performance in those areas, that's a big problem. And it's also a bigger problem considering that, with PC, there's probably going to be a setting to increase density or a mod to do that. But with consoles where the majority of people are going to play, that's not going to be an option. Even an update won't come to like 2021 for the next gen consoles. They're pretty much the same between them. I do want to get back to that later though. I did talk about a reality check for some people like a minute ago, and I can't think of a better transition than to Noodle Pocket Guy. I mean, in all fair funness, this is actually pretty funny. So pretty much what's going on is he's sitting down, munching at his noodles, having the time of his life. Then V comes up and just is rude to him for some reason. I'm joking, they deserved it. They were like harassing V for no reason. Then all of a sudden you make them mad, so he straight up takes what's left of his noodles that he was eating and throws it in his back pocket, then stands up. I mean, he's even shaking his head after that. He's not feeling so good. I think his pants just got ruined. Then he knows he done messed up. It's pretty obvious why they didn't make him just drop the noodles instead of put it away. They reused an eating animation to save time instead of having to make a brand new animation which is drop. So you're pretty much going to see stuff like this a lot more often in the game, which, it's nothing game breaking or anything, but you really need to temper your expectations and make those expectations realistic. It's going to be a lot more similar to RPGs that have already came out and massive AAA games like GTA. I believe their budget is a little bit more than GTA's though, but I think GTA's kind of never mind, I'll talk about that in a separate video. Then some people believe it's going to be a lot more similar to those RPGs and AAA games. It's not going to sit in its own little box. Most of the development of an RPG isn't about open world mechanics, but about making sure the quest triggers work properly and deciding new routes to kind of diverge the quests into, that you can finish them and still be happy that you feel like you finished it in your own way, even though you add a little bit of illusion of choice every once in a while because you have to end up in the same general route. Where on earth I said that so quickly I don't even know where I am. More proof of this is how they only have one animation for shooting a pistol. It's funny because I've seen that same animation so many times because they've been pretty obsessed with showing pistols for some reason. It's always the guy where he tilts his head and then the weapon's kind of scooched. I don't know, you'll be able to see it better when I edit it on, but they've shown it so many times and all three of the goons were using the same pistol, so I was like, huh? That's a little bit odd. They did seem a bit bullet spongy. I mean, I didn't really write this in, but yeah, they did seem a little bit bullet spongy to me. I mean, they took 2 shotgun blasts straight up face first close range and they didn't go down. It was actually the nade that took them down, which I've seen them using nades a lot in their gameplays, which I'm wondering if nades are just doing ridiculous amounts of damage in that early part of the game. It might be because the way some games do their nades, some RPGs, is they do a base damage and because they don't have skills or anything attached to them, so they always do this insane damage, but as you get better weapons and progress in the game, the nades become weaker just because you're getting stronger. That's a little bit of RPG mechanics, I guess, to explain to you real quick. A lot of the issues that people have raised I do understand, but I'm not so sure about the combat being sluggish issue. The combat was exactly how I at least expected it to be. It's pretty much the same as my modded Fallout 4. It's the modernized FPS shooter mechanics, which, Fallout 4 also did. And they just kind of put it in also because that's kind of where FPS shooters are at. That's modern take on it. I think, so they didn't really innovate anything based on that. I think the real issue people are having is that one, the innovation thing, because even when we were a lot further from the release date, people were like, well, did you know that they've innovated so many things in the past and we're gonna have completely different innovation? There is a bit of innovation in the the fighting, but not the shooting. The shooting's pretty set, generally modern FPS shooting. Another issue I think people are having is that they didn't really showcase those things that made it unique, like the time slow ability, the upgrade legs that make you kind of strafe. They just decided to show straight up gameplay, and what we've seen from melee. Oh yeah, it was melee. Somebody taught me how to say it. It wasn't melee. It was melee. Even though it's written melee, but it's actually melee. Depending on if you're in the States or you're in Britain, pretty much which type of English you're using. Just, I don't know, quick lesson, I guess. So yeah, it's actually melee if you're talking US, but I'm from Canada, so I say melee. But I'll try saying melee. So from what we see from melee has just been instant animation deaths, which doesn't really ease people that wonder if melee is going to be useless and that think it might end up just being mostly hack and slash. Oh, and the fact that he said false alarm before you got the clip emptied into him has triggered some people pretty bad. Which, here's the thing, a lot of this outrage is built up from that delay, which is why they really shouldn't be delaying again. Like, it's going to be catastrophic how the community is going to rip this game to shreds if it comes out. Because this thing where he's like, oh, you're emptying a clip into him and he's still talking. This wasn't the first time we saw it. We saw that back in the 48-minute demo. You actually like completely destroyed one of the NPC's heads, so not get YouTube mad. But yeah, you destroy one of the NPC's heads, and then he kept talking. I'll edit it in just for you guys to see it. But yeah, this has been a thing for a while.
Jesus Christ! My legs! My legs!
Oh boy!
But people were more Cyberpunk. You can do whatever you want. We're fine with it. We worship you. We don't care. We're not talking about the bugs. Whatever. But then after you go like 3 straight delays in a row, people have had it. If you do a 4th one, I'm really worried. Like, they're delaying for their Metacritic Metacritic score. That will plummet. I'm telling you, that will plummet. People are going to be mad. There's also a heavy push, but no, wait. I accidentally skipped the part. How did I manage to do that? The guy actually did show off him dashing at one point, but it was right after the nade got thrown and he was reloading, so he didn't actually show it off as much as people would have probably liked to see. At least I would have liked to see it a bit more, because that's kind of where the maneuverability comes in. The type of maneuverability we saw in the 48-minute demo, because he did have the upgrade legs, but he only dashed to reload. He also didn't show any real cyber, which is like, that's what makes your game unique in the combat. If you don't want people to think your game combat is generic, then you'd want to show off more of those core features. But yeah, there's also been a heavy pushback by the community against pointing out bugs off the footage as well, because some people are still like holding off to the pre-delay status that the game had, which I'd side with the people talking about all the bugs. Honestly, we know the delays haven't actually been about bug fixing, but other things. But regardless, they've advertised their delays as polishing their game. And if you're seeing bugs in a polished 10-minute gameplay from the start of the game, remember, you're level 8 at this point in the game, then they actually chose to show you this. And there's an issue, because this is a hand-picked section that they chose to show us. But anyways, we need to talk about the quality of the footage. So there was an odd decision made to only upload it in 1080p, which is odd because it's not like it's an issue with whoever decided to edit it, really. Before you say anything like, oh, because it was recorded in 1080p, that's why it's in 1080p. Or these people are so spoiled, they want 4K. Well, here's the thing. I have to explain to you how YouTube actually works real quick, because I've uploaded like 400 videos on this channel. So the way YouTube works, there are because those are responses I've seen, but the way YouTube works, so when you upload any type of video, 1080p, 1440p, 4K, 8K footage, YouTube actually downscales it and compresses your video to pretty much footage that's much worse than what you're seeing on the screen. So even if the game's recorded in 1080p, it probably looks like 720 or like 480p with the downscale. I'm not even joking there. They should have uploaded it in 4K so that we see the footage as close to how realistic it would. Actually, 4K upscaling. If they recorded in 1080p, they should have posted in 1440p, because 4K upscaling would kinda not be so good. But yeah, it would have been as close as it could actually be to what the footage would look like on the console. Because right now, I can't in good faith tell you that the footage actually looks spectacular or horrible because of how downscaled it is actually. But even with that in mind, I've had an issue with how Silverhand looks for like the longest time ever. Every time I've seen his face in game, it just looks like it's worse than other characters. When I saw him in the deep dive, I was like, huh? What is this? And then when I see him now, like, what's going on? In the screenshots, he looks amazing, but in game, he just doesn't for some reason. There's a disconnect there. I've seen that disconnect also in the Mox's door guard, but that's probably a topic for another video. It could be, actually, that was a topic I was making for a video, and then I got too lazy to finish that video because it required a lot of editing. Yeah, it could be really bad, or it could be due to how they edited it, really. But yeah, in the screenshots, he looks amazing, but in-game, he just doesn't. And this elevator scene does look a little bit awkward, because I think this is actually a bug. He's doing an animation as if he has a bum knee, like, you know, if he's injured. Oh, V, I'm dying. I think he's supposed to actually be leaning on the wall to look all cool instead of look like he's just heavily injured for some reason. But he's too far away from that wall, so it looks awkward to me. I saw it the first time also, like the first time I started working, like the first time I actually watched it, and I was like, that's a little bit odd. But then I was like, nah. Can't be bothered to point it out right now. There's too much other stuff going on. So make sure to check out yesterday's video. Check out yesterday's video. Poke. But yeah, I haven't seen that many people complaining about Silverhand's look. So tell me in the comments if you agree or disagree that Silverhand just looks a lot worse in game than screenshots. This isn't like the first major real life person that looks a lot different in the game for some reason. We saw a screenshot of another person looked very different. I commented on it at the time, but I completely forgot. Like, I completely forget about who it was. Since we've gone into the more technicals now, the footage did have parts where it was straight up lagging. I mean, like lag spikes. I'd say, with considering how few people there were on screen, it's a little worrying. But because how do I explain it? Oh, I know how to explain it. Okay, so the NPCs, they kind of have like pathing, and the way they're pathing and they're walking and they're, just what am I doing next? It's actually CPU oriented rather than graphics oriented. So the more people there are, the more it kind of destroys your CPU. That's why they say you need a good graphics and a good CPU, because the game has to look good, and the instructions that go into what should this person do has to be handled by the CPU. And, even consoles have a CPU and GPU, believe it or not. So, there you go. But at the same time, that could, the lag could just be an editing issue, because, I guess we're playing both sides here, actually. It could be really bad, or it could be due to editing. Because when you record enough videos, you know that you can have the most perfect, clear, crisp, smooth footage while you're playing it, but your recording is choppy. Or after you edit it, it's choppy, or even after you actually upload it, it's choppy. And it's not the entire video. It could be like one section. I actually have an example of that, which maybe I'll put onto the screen, where like Sasquatch, that was her name. Sasquatch's sledgehammer just kind of cuts and becomes really laggy for some reason. And that's kind of, yeah. A lot can go wrong when you're doing a video. It very rarely happens though, like maybe once every 200 vids or something you'd get like that major of an issue. So I will get back to the performance concerns. Well, actually once every 100 vids would be a bit more fair. At least for me, I've had a decent bit of error vids when I first started, but they have better experience, I'd say, at editing stuff, so they shouldn't run into as many issues, and they should actually be watching the videos after they're finished, unlike me that just assumes that after I rendered it, it's perfect. So I'll get back to the performance concerns when we see the PS5 footage, if the issue is still there, which, some people might take this as nitpicking or just looking for bad things in the game, but I'll be fully honest with you, I'm covering the performance concerns because many of you are going to be playing it on consoles. I've got a super high-end PC, so optimization can just go out the window, and I'd still run it fine. So this is for you all just to know about. Really, no other flicks hate game theory. I actually feel like there was a bigger jump in quality between the Series X and the One X in graphics, but we just couldn't tell because it was downscaled to 1080p, to be honest. Anyways, if you enjoyed this amazing video, you already know what to do. Subscribe for more quality content like this. every single day. Hopefully, I had something else planned for the past 2 days, but this really just came out of nowhere, really. So I'm not sure if it's people complaining or people complaining about the people complaining that's made these issues so popular. I'm actually a little worried for them for tomorrow, because tomorrow's Night City Wire episode 5, in case you're wondering. But because if there was this much pushback over this, Night City Wire 5 isn't faring too well when they're going over music. I think people still feel a little bit burned over the last delay. Another delay would really unleash the inferno, you could say. Part of me wants to see it just so I could see the storm that follows. Anyways, peace, ladies and gentlemen. Stay amazing. I've shortened these. I thought I shortened them, but apparently we still got to 20 minutes because seems like for some reason. I don't really like scrolling down to see my notes. That's why I shortened it. But then they'd be like 30-minute videos if I did shorten it. Anyways, I told you it's daily quality content. We've got a lot to cover.